fucking awesome. Come on, it's gonna be fucking awesome. You know the words. It's gonna be fucking awesome. That's it, see. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Yeah!
What up, my fellow coolest geeks? Care Bear stare out to you all. Thanks for listening and being a part of our continuing to grow audience. It's been nice interacting with a few of you guys on Twitter. I'm on Twitter. I'm Coolest Geek JBS. You can find me there. You can also still email me at Jesse Blaze at jessesnider.com. I am super hot and heated, and I don't want to continue to make everything about fucking Disney and Bob Iger, but there's just so much to say right now, especially just something that I don't hear anybody else calling him out on properly, which is he keeps crediting himself for the success of Black Panther. Whenever he wants to point to this moment in time, he's like, yeah, but Black Panther, I said get it done. And it's funny because their PR people had really gone out of their way to let it out that that this had been something that had been pushed forward by Kevin Feige, I'm not sure how do you pronounce it, and was being held up for many years by is it Ike Pearlmutter? I think it's Ike Pearlmutter. Who was one of the heads of Marvel. Now, with everything, it's like you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Clearly, Mr. Pearlmutter was doing some things right. But he was absolutely a barrier to change. And I want to give a proper history here because people who lean right and left tend to, kind of just like have a distorted view of things a little bit, I think. People who are on the right are like everything was perfectly fine until these assholes started to like push their diversity and all these things. Okay, listen, that desire to push diversity and get more representation, more women and other races into these books came from a long-standing belief within the industry that was preventing books starring women and books starring other races from gaining any traction. A number of books were tried at various times to varying degrees of success. Black Panther is probably one of the most successful ones, especially with its reintroduction into the Marvel Universe with Marvel Knights, which got me into the character and really just like took everything that was awesome about that character and just made him that much cooler and, really kind of the Marvel Universe Batman in a wonderful way. He was always a wonderful character. And I mean, really, this is what I need to say about Black Panther right here. Get out of the way. Black Panther is one of the single greatest creations of Stan and Jack, Black Panther. And it has nothing to do with his race. It has to do with the fact that he's a king and a hero. And these heroes, especially when you're working with the Avengers or whatever, there's the greater good that you're always working for, right? But, and a lot of these heroes have a mom they have to answer to, or a girlfriend they have to answer to, and oh shit, I had to do something for the greater good. T'Challa has a kingdom that he has to answer to. He is a king, and he has a great responsibility to his kingdom. So balancing doing the right thing and the greater good of all and doing the right thing for his kingdom, I think really puts him in a difficult situation. And makes for a very interesting and rich character. He's very intelligent, but he's a human being at the end of the day, and he's using, technology and wits to make his way in the world, similarly to, Batman, albeit with a little bit more of a high-tech spin. And then the infrastructure of the world. Wakanda, as created by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, and the vibranium, and then more richly laid out even more by Christopher Priest, who's if you've read any recent work of his, he's so great. He's somebody who came out. They tried to hire him during the hiring phase when they were hiring all of these people of color, and they were like, there's existing great talent of color that isn't being hired right now, and they were like, hey, Chris, will you write a black book? And he was like, nah. He's like, I'll do anything but a black character. And I thought that was fucking awesome. I want to go to Marvel and write an epic Luke Cage, Harlem Superman. I have a really great thing in mind to like amp that character's status up. And that's what they should be doing. Amping status and trying out characters over and over again. And they hadn't been doing that, going back to the history, because they felt in general, well, look, it's not working. It's not that it wasn't working. It's that a lot of the things that they tried didn't necessarily work at the time. And, and a lot of it is because corporations ruin everything. So the moment it's like a corporate decree of like, we need to get some black people in these books, well, everybody's got an afro and everybody's got like a 70s vibe, and it becomes token. And we were talking on previous episodes about like the tokenization of these of people in general now, that everybody is just their race and their sex, and like so now everybody's token, which is just the really unfortunate state of fiction that we're in. Anyway, people who were more left-leaning and people who were minorities and women and were interested in these things could feel that there was a hand that was seemingly holding back the women and holding back anybody who wasn't white from taking center stage. And it was true. Okay? I've talked to a couple people who are on like the right-leaning side of things recently, and they were really kind of like harping on this, that like, no, everything was like perfect before. No, there was a deficiency, okay? And the misnomer and the misunderstanding really at the time was that great characters were great characters and they would do perfectly well. Spawn is a black character. Shadowhawk is a black character. These are two of the big image sensations. The Savage Dragon is a green character. Youngblood was filled with women and minorities, and as were Jim Lee's Wildcats and Wetworks and whatnot. Those Image comic booms, they're all over the place. It's funny. I'm just thinking about this, but like Ninja Turtles and Spider-Man, masked tech characters, I think they've always actually benefited from the fact that they were masked, because it helped black, Hispanic, whatever, like anybody could be Spider-Man. If you were a man, you could be Spider-Man. So there's definitely something to representation, and you guys, I know that it's become such like an aggravating thing that you want to argue it, but don't argue when you're out there in the world. Don't argue that part, because that was true and that needed to be done. But the overcorrection that has taken place is abhorrent, and it's really ruined fiction, because it's basically given the executives and the editors more carte blanche to get involved in scripts and content and story in ways that they never were before. They've always been a little bit up our butts and making things more difficult, largely for the creative people. And it's not always the editors that are doing this. It's their higher ups, and we got to do this and we got to do that. These people are just executing the wishes of the people above them, like Bob Iger, which is why we must blame him for all of the shit. And I'm gonna talk about more stuff later with fucking Iger and like the Fox properties that he's dropping and all these other things. It's like, fucking up yours, Bob. It's ridiculous. It's just so much fucking praise has been heaped on him, and it's just like, it's political, ideological bullshit. Look at the fucking job the man's doing. Actions speak louder than words. Look at the actions. And this guy's taking credit for fucking Black Panther. Anyway, So there was this tipping point. There was this black characters, women, they don't sell action figures, they don't sell merchandise, they can't carry a book, whatever else. So why bother to try? We've tried, we keep trying. It's not working. Eventually, this push became like a mandatory thing from on high. But like, you know, it's been, they've pushed for years. They just haven't always done a great job of it. And so many of the offerings the fans haven't liked, oftentimes for lots of the sort of tokenism thing that I'm talking about, where like, you know, they haven't necessarily given us a black character that's like, you know, blown our minds or something like that. You know, and for some reason, so much of the best ones end up in as like side characters in books. Like Mr. Terrific, it's one of my fucking favorite characters. I love Mr. Terrific in DC Comics on the JSA. They've got Mr. Terrific, and he's got such a great backstory. And I always wanted to do a Mr. Terrific ongoing series. I thought he was so great. It's just and again, it's nothing to do with his fucking race, man. Like, and that's the great thing about Mr. Terrific is he's not typically black. When they brought him back in the New 52, they gave him tattoos, and it really was against his type, based on who he was. He was a thinking man, and he was a technologist, and these trendy tattoos were like so beneath him. He's an Olympian. He's a self-made man. He lost his wife. He's really like beautiful story. And then like, you know, they're like, let's redesign Mr. Terrific. Well, he's black, so give him these cool trendy tattoos and make him all hip and cool. Like, he didn't need that. Like, that was the cool thing about Mr. Terrific, was that he was like, he was an intellect. He wasn't showy, even though his costume was fucking lit. His costume's still lit. Love Mr. Terrific. There are great characters. Luke Cage has always really been a cool character with a cool basic sort of attitude about the world he was in when he was written right. But generally speaking, I never felt like anybody like got him correctly, because like he's like against the man to a certain degree. Like that's what made him cool, when he was like, he was a no-nonsense man living in a world run by powers that he couldn't control. And as a black man, he even understood that a little bit better than anybody. And you know, like, it's their world. He's just living in it and like making a difference the best he can. Like that attitude has come across at certain times, and when certain writers have been writing him, and it's very cool. He's a cool character, but often it's just, he's not handled well. Again, another character who I'd love to go write. And it's so silly that like there's the idea that there should be any barrier to me writing a black character because like I'm not black. Like I'm like a fucking, I don't know, half my fucking friends are black. I've played football my whole life, and well, guess what? Like a lot of the people who I've been playing with are black, and so I mean, like, I have a lot of fucking friends, and my groomsmen are black, and it's just so ridiculous to think that like people aren't capable of imagining themselves as other people. That's the whole thing of writing, is imagining yourselves as other people. I love playing with toys. I think toys are wonderful because it gives you empathy, because you have to imagine this person does this, so what does this person do? Well, this person goes, oh, I don't like that, so I'm going to do this, and they're going to do this and this. Then, you know, it goes back and forth. But that's how you learn empathy. 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 What would empathy be? To be an imp. That's how you learn empathy. You know, thinking about how somebody else is going to react to this thing. And it's the hugest skill with being a writer. Being invited to go like talk and do some like lectures or whatever for writing at a college out here on Long Island. And I was just like talking about how people are just too insular nowadays, too inside themselves and not outside themselves enough, and not understanding enough. And there's somebody online I was talking about with my buddy Aaron. I said, why does everybody hate Perch? He's a YouTube guy named Perch. And he's like, I don't know, I guess because he's like, you know, some people like calling him like a fucking fence sitter or whatever. And he's like, doesn't want to, you know, he's always like sort of like saying like, you know, there are non-evil reasons for some of these decisions. And I think like that mostly. Generally speaking, with Perch, like, I think he's like being too kind, and I don't know how much into the business he's been in certain aspects, but I mean, like, clearly there's there's some shit coming down from top very forcefully. There's a shitload of, like, tinkering with society going on right now, and geek culture fiction has gotten caught in the middle of it. But I do think like that, like, in general, we have to be empathetic. We have to try to imagine the reasonable reason why things might be going badly. And it's funny because you can still be a conspiracy theorist and all the other things, because at the end of the day, greed and money and power is a simple explanation that basically can solve everything. You don't need anything beyond that. Of course, there is a lot more beyond that that's more complex, but you only need those things to understand why and how things may be going wrong, until somebody at the top recognizes these things and makes a concerted effort to mitigate them in the creation of all this work, which we know now especially, but we've known for a while now, that Bob Iger has not been doing this. He's not been doing this at all. So I want to talk about Bob taking credit for this fucking Black Panther thing. And again, they had already given credit to Kevin Feige fighting the evil Pearlmutter at Marvel. But here's the truth, right? The truth is, society wasn't racist anymore. We hadn't been racist for a long time. Michael Jordan and so many other fabulous sports athletes and musicians and comedians broke through. Eddie Murphy and In Living Color and Bill Cosby and all these things. And we were largely living in a world that was not particularly racist. I grew up with a lot of effort put into, opening up the doors in so many different ways. And I think people like forget that completely because they're dwelling on like the distant past. But in recent time, things have been generally good. There were things that people didn't know about that they should know about, and I was one of the people who was trying to open my mouth about that stuff for a long time, until all of a sudden it became very trendy to like be a social justice warrior, and then I kind of got quiet about it again because that wasn't why I was doing it. There are marginalized people. There are so many. I hate that I live in a world where I pass, a homeless person on the street, and I'm like conditioned to just like, nothing I can do about that. Like, oh my God, is there really nothing I can do about that? Like, I could try to bring him in. I could like, it kills me that conversation with myself doesn't go anywhere, and I don't have a bunch of homeless people in my house. Like, I feel like I probably should. It's rough, this world that we're living in. But it could be better. And, it goes back to that empathy thing of, having to think about all this stuff. But we were getting there. We were absolutely getting there. And maybe there were some racist voices on the fringe and isolated people who haven't traveled or hadn't, been won over by various entertainment or whatever it might have been. But I really believe that the age of racism and sexism was really largely over. There was enough change to the thing that there was a lot of movement going on. Now, what that means and what that meant, as somebody who could tell the temperature of the room at the time, was that they could make a great Black Widow action figure and put it out, and I wanted one so bad. There were certain action figures that I really wanted of female characters that weren't like coming out. I'm like, and and part of it was this thing, and Black Panther was so ripe for a film, and Blade proved how racist the audience was not, and that Black Panther would be great. I mean, after Blade was a success, I was like, oh man, Black Panther. I was waiting for them to do a great rendition of Black Panther. I knew that the audience would love Black Panther even more than Blade because he was a heroic character. He was a good guy. And as we saw or heard in the episode that I did on how Westerns, they died because the fucking shitty suicidal writers in Hollywood made all of the freaking heroes into depressive alcoholics and nobody wanted to watch Westerns anymore, but the heroes, people like heroes. So it's like similar to Blade in a lot of ways. But Black Panther, he's a hero and like he's a king and like fucking awesome. I knew that shit was going to be great. And look, I'll call it right now. Aquaman's going to do much better than everybody's saying. It's going to. It's a fucking PG-13 movie starring Jason Momoa. Not really much is coming out. It's not going to have much competition. I think it's going to do much better than people are saying. I don't know if it's going to do good. I doubt it'll do fucking good, especially with all the research. It'll probably still lose money. But, I mean, they're like saying it's going to do less than Marvel's. I don't think so. I don't think it's going to do less than Marvel's. And I've been making predictions my entire life, and I am generally right. Granted, I'm not generally sharing these predictions with everybody because I'm, like, making these predictions for myself with, like, buying toys. I'm like, what do I do? This is going to be expensive. This is going to be cheap. I'll buy it now. Whatever. But these predictions are the predictions that need to be made by these executives, these higher ups, and I could tell you that a well done Black Panther film would be a hit. A well done She-Hulk film would be a hit. I mean, now I think they crushed the brand a little bit. A well-done Captain Marvel film could have killed. And granted, I know there are a lot of people out there go, Captain Marvel did kill. Well, we're going to get to that in a second with this like history here, right? So there was this big power struggle because there was this big culture change that they wanted to go about. They wanted, to bring about a lot more inclusivity. They wanted to bring in a lot of the new Marvel characters that had been created in the more recent years when exclusivity became like a corporate mandate, and they were really pushing a number of characters. It's such a bummer because like when the audience rejects these characters, that doesn't mean that they're racist. It just means they don't like the characters. So give them new ones, and like keep going. There are characters that we like. Try a new take on Night Thrasher. We like Night Thrasher. He's pretty cool. There's a lot of ways to do this that are totally acceptable to your audience, and your audience can get behind. And getting the right creators to do this too, who really feel a passion about what it is that they're doing. Clearly. And I guess sometimes it can be driven by race and stuff, but it's like. It's really got to be driven by the characters and the stories that they want to tell more than anything else. And that's so much of the biggest problem. I mean, it's like when you're casting your people instead of hiring the best people, it's like casting the NBA. If we were casting the NBA and it was a diverse group, the games wouldn't be as good. Don't cast the writing staff. It's a bad idea. It's like a really, really bad idea. So anyway, because society wasn't really racist anymore, we were very open to these things. They were being held back from us, and in my early days, I remember pitching a couple things and being asked to change the lead from a female to a male, and being asked to change a lead from a Hispanic maybe to a white guy, but to make some arbitrary changes like that. And I heard stories like that from various creators. That definitely changed over time when I was in the business relatively quickly, because like I was a teenager, like just kind of getting into comics, and I was 16 is like the beginning of like me like trying to break into the industry a little bit. And then I was like, professionally, well, I submitted something by the time I was like 18 or something like that. But actually being like a pro, years later, 8 years later, whatever, things were starting to change. And that change was like a big floodgate, in comics at a certain point. And then there was a similar thing in the Marvel universe with this power struggle, which now, Bob Iger wants to take a claim to, and maybe he does have a claim to it. It would make sense to some degree. And they got Black Panther greenlit and decided on Captain Marvel as well, I guess, and a few other things that, and the new direction, and dissolved the Marvel creative brain trust, which was the biggest fucking mistake they ever made. Talked about this many times before. The Marvel brain trust was loaded with some of Marvel Comics' greatest creative people, including Joe Quesada, Craig Kyle, Jeff Loeb, and plenty of others. It's really like it's just insanity that they got rid of the creative committee. I really just mind-boggling. It boggles the mind, these motherfuckers. I mean, this is like why the whole company's falling apart. They got rid of all the people who were running, who were helping Marvel be great. They got rid of John Lasseter at Pixar. They got rid of George Lucas's influence at Star Wars. They refused to hire Frank Oz with the Muppets. It's fucking insanity. Insanity, shenanigans. This man should be he should be burned at the stake. I'm just kidding. You shouldn't be burned at the stake. I'm just kidding. But you should be fucking fired, man. Like, it's like long ago. I mean, like, and this shit should be embarrassing. It's like all of this corporate shit. It's like, oh, we don't want to hurt everybody's feelings. We can't fire that person because it looks like this. We can't fire this person because it looks like this. Motherfucker is fucking up the show. And like, for me, again, it goes back to that conspiracy thing. I'm like, this must be a conspiracy because they're destroying it. It's as if they are nuking all of the things. Shoo, Star Wars. Shoo, Doctor Who. Shoo, Star Trek. Shoo, Lord of the Rings. Shoo, the Marvel Universe. He-Man. Willow. Choo! Indiana Jones. Choo! Should I keep going? Because you can keep going. You can keep going. Do you want me to keep going? Okay, I'll stop. It takes me a second to remember some more. It's really like, yeah, man, there's been a concerted effort going on here. Fucking up all this stuff. So, power struggle happens. Ike Pearlmutter gets overthrown. Movies are put into progress. Black Panther comes out. There's buzz about it at the studio. People are seeing it. It's fucking phenomenal. Of course it fucking is. It's the Black Panther. One of the single greatest creations of the Marvel Universe. So yes, it makes fucking sense. And they're like, oh my God, we've got a golden ticket. This is exactly what we've been looking for. This is the thing that signals our virtue to the world. We are virtuous. Hell yeah, right? Now, again, before I say anything here, because this was all their ideology and stuff, they fanned the flame here. They were ready. They knew that this was fucking good, and it was exactly what they were looking for. So this fire was amplified a fucking 1,000-fold, and I don't think it would have done as well. It still would have done fucking phenomenally because it's fucking phenomenal character, and they did largely a very great job. And Chadwick Boseman was great, but he is not the be-all, end-all of that character. He did not make that character. That character was great before he got there. Unlike, let's say, a Tony Stark, who wasn't necessarily always great before Robert Downey Jr. got there. Robert Downey Jr.'s influence has helped that character. But T'Challa was always great. He did a great job, but they need to recast that character. They need to immediately recast T'Challa, and it's just, ugh. Yuck. Sorry. This is how I feel about these things. So yeah, they fanned the flame. They had this big success, and Bob Iger's taking fucking. No, it's not fucking Bob Iger's fault. It's not. It's Jack and Stan's fault. It's Christopher Priest's fault. It's Mark Texeira's fault. And other great creative people who worked on Black Panther and solidified that awesome vibe that movie was able to capitalize on and introduce into the Marvel Universe. The movie was success. It was a success because it was always going to be a success because it's a great character. And great characters, they stand the test of time, man. So they take this as like their sail to the shit. Look at the sail. We've got a sail. We're going to blow straight on. And they're like, and now we're going to do it again. We're going to make a feminist icon out of Captain Marvel. We're going to do the whole fucking thing. But they overdo it because they start playing into all this feminist ideology thing. And we're like, well, we can't have her trained by a man. So they make Captain Marvel a Annette Bening, an old lady in a simulation. And they start fucking with her origin. And they fuck with Nick Fury's origin and emasculate him because he's in the movie and it's the emasculation movie. Oh my God, that fucking movie. And in that movie, again, they were ready for it. But again, they saw the tracking on it wasn't so great in various ways. And they started loading up. They were, and there's plenty of at least anecdotal proof of this. There are pictures. There are, but not enough to come to a consensus. But my suspicion is abso-fucking-lutely they padded this thing like crazy. They had it all set up for success. They couldn't have it fail. And it was stuck right between the two big Avengers movies. So it was really, really set up to succeed anyway. And as it did well, and they were able to report how much money it made because they padded it in the beginning, they were able to get other people to go in and see it and get legs on it and turn it into $1 billion success. But we see how much people like that movie by how the Marvels is doing. It's not even going to cross 200 million worldwide. They literally they reported that they're not going to report anymore the box office for it. Like it's done essentially, and it's at like 120 worldwide. Last I checked, or something like that. And that might not be an up to date number, but it's very, very low. It's certainly not going to hit that 200 million, I don't think, unless all of a sudden it legs out, and I think it's getting dropped from theaters already. It has not done well at all at the box office. So, I mean, what is that saying? And this is this thing that he keeps pointing to. This is the door. This is the door that we walked through that got us everything else, that got us the Wakandan Ladies Forever follow up to Black Panther, and this fun girl power Marvels movie, and the 3 unreleased female led, and again, it's not about the female led. It's just that these characters aren't ready for prime time. The audience doesn't like them. Agatha Harkness has never had a comic book. Echo has only recently had a comic book because they've been trying to push her in the comics because she's ethnically diverse. She was a great character in the TV show. They really did a bad job with her. The character's way too butch. The character in the book is really beautiful and elegant. She kicks ass. She's super cool, but she's not like, I don't know, lady in the Hawkeye show felt like a military chick or something. It was really weird. And then Ironheart, who has at least had like some top tier talent on her and whatnot. I can't say she's exactly gone over great with the fans. She kind of became like Brian Michael Bendis' swan song with the fans, of like, they loved everything he did. There was like a real downturn over time of like people kind of getting fed up with his desaturated, really long form storytelling where like not much happened. And then Ironheart, people I think really kind of rejected. In the Champions more recently, she's been an ancillary character of the Champions team with Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, and I think all those characters have worked a lot better there. Which is honestly why it's so weird that they're talking about doing a Young Avengers movie when, even though they're setting up those people and the Young Avengers do come first, but if they want to put Kamala Khan in something, the Champions is a really great team for her. And they're a little bit more infantile and cutesy and sweet, the great way that that actress is. all those things. They just really poor planning on Marvel's part here. It's just so much. I love to believe that if the creative board at Marvel Brain Trust had never been dissolved, that like these problems wouldn't have occurred, and maybe they'll be smart enough to literally retcon everything back to Endgame and fix it from there. Because shit, man, shit needs fixing. Get in there and fix that shit. Shit needs fixing. Smell like shit. Smell that? I do. Yep. It's shit. So, Bob Iger, were you responsible for Black Panther? No, you weren't. You weren't fucking responsible for Black Panther. You had nothing to do with that fucking movie's success at all in any way, shape, and form. And while I'm glad that it got pushed through to be done and was shown that it could be successful, I hate the overreaction on the other side of things that has taken place. Because as I've spoken about before, what used to be a, make the lead a white male, has now become a series of like what you must do and how you must depict people and how much inclusion you must have and how much, like, these things need to come naturally. Everything needs to come naturally from story. And like, I hate this thing where like we're like, well, in history, these people were this color, but who cares? Like, no, like that's like, let's not forget history and let's do things like historic. And if you want to cast black people in your movies, and tell some great stories from African culture. Like if you want to cast Hispanic people in your culture, tell some great stories of the Aztecs and like the landscape of planet Earth is littered with amazing stories. Amazing stories. So like, you want inclusion, go tell some of those stories. I'm so sick and tired of like this like silly cookie cutter Americanized thing just being turned into like some sort of stage play by entertainment. Like, what do we want it to look like today? Da, 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 da. It's just there are naturalistic things. There are, hey, he came from this place and I came from this place and we're friends. And like, like those stories are great when they're like real and like, and tell those stories. Like there's so much, everything's like assumed and they don't even like allow any culture or where you came from to dictate the relationships and the interests. And I mean, sometimes some of these shows will do it well and some books will do it well, but I mean, so often I just find it also token, just really token. So what was it that I wanted to talk about in addition to this? Because I think that there was a correction that needed to be made, and the correction has been made, and now it's been overcorrected, and now we're hopefully going to be walking back on it. Although seeing things like this boycott of X and all this shit like makes me go, I don't know, man. Seems like they're doubling down on the culture war pretty hard. But independent comic books and independent novelists and independent films are going to rise up to supplant all this shit. Mark my words. Mark my words, the time is ripe. The time is now. And, people like me are doing it. I've got a book called Fucking for Our Future that's about to launch on Fund My Comic and then go over to Kickstarter. And it's a real sensational, mature readers, but funny science fiction thing that I think everybody's going to love. I'm so excited about it. It'll be up there next few days if you're listening to this like on time when it comes out. But, and I'm in backroom chats with so many other independent comic book creators who are creating their own things and their own companies and people figuring out how to do it on their own. And I mean, really, like, times they are changing and we don't got to rely on the man no more. We're going to get out from underneath his thumb and we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time here on planet Earth, because these companies are just going to tank themselves if they continue to play these games with us. And, right now, I mean, if I was Bob Iger, man, if I was Bob Iger, like, okay, so if I was Bob Iger this second, or let's say if I've been Bob Iger, first of all, the shit that they got from Fox is no joke. Not even mentioning the Marvel properties, which they should have really singularly focused on in a really good way. They should have introduced the Fantastic Four. They should have introduced the X-Men, the beginnings of the X-Men. There's some really cool things they could have done with the X-Men because of like the nature of the way the X-Men happened in the comics. And but Alien, Predator, they got the Narnia series, which now they're relaunching as a TV series. When I don't know, I think they probably could have finished out that Narnia franchise and stuck the landing good enough that they could have turned that into something, made that something that mattered to people, because people like those movies already and love those books. What else from Fox? We got the Avatar stuff. There are a number of things. They have not, like, Anastasia. Anastasia is an animated film. The voice acting is Meg Ryan. I forget who the lead male is. They've got this great evil wizard and Bartok the talking bat. It's a total Disney-style film. Some of the Disney producers at the time had left the company to go over to Fox, produce something. It's awesome. I would have introduced Anastasia into The Princesses, done a re-release of the movie. I would have honored the fuck out of Fox and done a bunch of really neat things with their property and really like publicity to connect myself with them in various ways. Announced a Disney After Dark slate where these things can be watched by parents on Disney Plus. There's so many fucking amazing things that they could have done here. I mean, just Fox alone. To buy all these things, and then they essentially bought them for the Marvel things, which the Marvel things they haven't been utilizing them. They still to this day. We finally got an X-Men character showing up at the end of the Marvels, which was a last minute addition. I don't know if I believe that was always going to be the case as they were saying it was. I don't believe it was. I mean, because these things are left to the last minute. Maybe it was one of the possibilities. But they haven't utilized any of this shit. They've had this stuff on the table from Fox, and there's more things too. I didn't look at a list before I did the show, so I mean, I don't have them right in front of me. But they have been dropping the ball. You want to make Pixar sequels? Set up a second studio beside Pixar, that Pixar can oversee, and let Pixar keep doing what it's doing. You want to reinvent the wheel in animation? Great. But also continue to deliver the goods with classic kind of shit. The princesses and the stuff that we like. And then create a new division for this new thing that you want to do. Keep the Marvel Universe going as close to the same thing as we've been loving. Keep Star Wars going as close to the same thing as we've been loving. Keep the Muppets going as close to the same thing as we've been loving. Hire Frank Oz. Oh my God. Like, how do you not hire Frank Oz? What is wrong with you people? Not you people. What is wrong with with Bob Iger? I mean, it's Bob Iger and people like him, these corporate fuckheads. They just have no clue what they're actually doing. And it's just so funny. Like, it's just always in a press conference and a smile and a nice suit and here I am and da 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 da. Like, and it's just like, I'm sorry, but people who are not in the machine can't tell you how the machine works. It's like, because you could observe something from the outside. Like, observing an elephant from the outside. Can you tell me how that elephant works? Like, you might be able to observe that it appears to be pulling in air. You might be able to observe that it eats things and it poops things out. You might be able to observe that it walks around and is generating a certain amount of heat and that it's having babies. But you can't observe the blood beneath its veins and the heart in its chest and the liver that's processing its food and its intestines and the processes that all that stuff's going through when it goes inside the body and how the sweat's coming outside the body and everything else is coming outside the body. You don't see that unless you're in it. So the best people for these jobs are merchants and creative people and people who have been working inside the business trying to get the best out of the business. And really, it's those people only that have been trying to get the best out of the business, because if you're trying to get the best out of business, then you're looking at all the different parts of the business and you're trying to tweak them. You know, it's essentially like a big clock, and you're trying to get it to run on time, and you're like, okay, I gotta get my artist, and I want my artist to be passionate and also diligent and also economical. I can afford them, and and then I want my cover to sell the book. And can my artist do something that's going to do that, or should I pay a little bit more for a cover artist that might sell the book a little bit better, or do I want it to be an authentic thing? It's like all these little things that have to be considered. And I mean, unfortunately, I think a lot of people who are going to the business these days, their board of cogs is much smaller than mine, and much smaller than Stephen King's, and much smaller than Grant Morrison's, and much smaller than Mark Millar's, and much smaller than the great people who have been working. And I credit mine to all of the great people who have been working, who I've been studying as a reader and studying as a reader of learning about how to write. I was very blessed as a young man, and I recommend this to anybody. I had a amazing writing teacher. Shout out to Mrs. Krinsky. I've shouted her out before. Mrs. Krinsky put together this class called Independent Writing for Publication, and it was just incredible. She collected all of these contests from all around the country that could be submitted to for writing. And it was poetry, and it was songwriting, and it was feature writing, and it was journalism and news writing, and one-act plays, and anything that you could think of, all sorts of poems and stuff. We would have, I don't know, we probably had at least 30 assignments throughout the year in this writing class, at least. And every single one of these 30 was submitted to one of these many contests. And I'll tell you what, everybody, by the end of the year, everybody had won something. Everybody was being acknowledged for something, which was great, because it was just very validating for everybody, because everybody's good at something. Maybe it's hard for you to do this, but you write some good haikus to write paragraphs, but you can write a haiku. But I'm joking a little bit, but me in particular, I mean, I got a lot of accolades. I won a lot of awards. It really So I credit that class so much to making me feel like I can do this. I'm a writer. And, and I went to college, as a writer, and I was the A&E editor doing an 8-page pullout my freshman year, which was good because I was only in college for 2 years. I love writing, and so much of that joy came from the reward of being able to do these things and be validated. So don't hesitate to submit yourself to contests, and writing classes, man. Just getting the opportunity to write and write different things. I've been writing my whole life, and really why I'm as good at it as I am is because just since I was a little boy, I was always writing songs and writing stories and just coming up with all these crazy things. I was playing with toys and coming up with stories for the toys, and then writing poems, and then as I got older, writing songs and bands, and then writing for the school newspaper, and writing journals, and writing reports for freaking school and shit like that, and writing short stories, at some point for the literary magazine, and because I enjoyed writing, so I kept going. But it's because I write. I write so much that I've gotten really comfortable at writing. And generally speaking, I don't even think about it now. Like I have to write something. There's certain things that I'll hem and haw about writing. Like I hate writing bios, like especially if I have to write a bio for myself. Actually, I don't mind writing bios about other people so much because if I have information, I can write bios about them. Write bios about yourself. Can I get a bio? Can I get a bio? Can I get a bio? And like you have to quickly like write a bio about yourself. I hate that. Take my whole day. No, not that bad. I've gotten better. But I'm sure it has. I'm sure it did. I'm sure at least once it took me a whole day to get back to somebody about, can you write me a quick bio about this, about yourself? But yeah, I mean, it's just doing the thing makes you feel comfortable doing the thing, makes you feel comfortable knowing that you can do the thing. And then once you're comfortable knowing that you can do the thing, you'll be doing the thing more. And once you're doing the thing more, you'll be able to get a pretty good assessment for whether or not you're any good at it. And if you're no good at it, you'll probably be like, I'm no good at this and do something else. Or you'll go, I'm pretty good at this. And I mean, and that's the thing. And like, at a certain stage of my life, for those young writers out there going like, I hope one day, like I have more confidence about this because I think maybe I can do it, but like, I don't know if I'm any good. Well, I mean, like, that's a sign of a good writer. I think maybe I can do it, but I don't know if I'm any good and I'd like to be better. That's how I was for forever. But then one day you wake up and you go, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm good at this. I've been doing this for a long time. I know how to write. I can put some words together. Granted, when I listen back to my show, I'm like, I hear myself going, but that's part of the podcast thing, isn't it? And as I get more comfortable, I do that less because I feel more in touch with the audience. I mean, please, like, write me as many letters as you can, and as many people follow me on Twitter and say hello, because it'll help me with the and stuttering, because that's me going, is there somebody out there listening for the first time and they don't know who I am and they're gonna think I'm a bastard because I said this one thing, and they're like, I love people and I don't want people to be dicks for no good reason, and pardon me. That brings me to a point that I wanted to make. There's this whole thing, and I've gotten really pissed off about this a couple times, about fence sitting. Fence sitting. People don't like fence sitters. You're a fence sitter. People who are on the right, who see people who are in the middle, like me, who don't want to, like, I guess, come out against the left, I guess. I don't know. I guess it boils down to that. Come out against the people on the left who are pushing for the thing. And I mean, clearly, I'm not an intellectual fence sitter in any way, shape, or form. And that's the part for me that matters the most, is the intellectual part. And the part that matters the most to me of the fence sitting thing is the people. Because I watched my industry get carved up, and I know the Ethan Van Skyvers and the Shane Davises of the world, or whatever, who have, like, become a little bit of like the face of the right. And then I know, the Heidi McDonalds and everybody else of the world who have become the face of the left. And I still consider all of them dear friends, and I don't have anything bad to say about them. Do I agree with everything they say? No. If we were put together in a conversation and we were asked questions and we were going to talk about it, I'd have a conversation with everybody about these things. And I think I can have a conversation about these things without it, like, coming to blows, as I see what happens all the time on the Twitters. I watched a whole video. There's a new YouTuber who I'm not going to name yet because I'm dissing him here, and I don't know if I love him yet. I'm still getting into him. My friend Aaron recommended him. But he did a video on this fence sitter thing, and he was talking about how when you take no side, you have no side, and all this shit. Dude, just because you're, and this is your bullshit term of sitting on the fence, right? Just because you're in the middle, just because you're a centrist, and he said centrism and whatever. Just because you're a centrist does not mean you don't have a side. I have a side. I'm choosing not to make my side your side or your side. I'm choosing not to give weight to either side. because I don't believe helping this side to bully that side is the way anything should be done. And that has been the traditional path of progress. This side bullies that side, then a little progress. This side bullies that side, and it goes back and forth as the weight of the middle shifts. But I believe we need to all meet in the middle. And he was like, oh, the middle doesn't exist, and it's this. Like, fuck you, man. Like it's just a stupid, idiotic opinions about being a peaceful person in the middle. Clearly, I have opinions. That doesn't mean that I want Heidi McDonald to like suffer because maybe her and I might not see eye to eye on everything. Like, I don't have any ill will towards Heidi at all. I think that she's coming at everything from her position. I think Ethan Van Sciver is coming at everything from his position, or whoever you might name. And I hate kind of name dropping people in like this in this regard because it's just like a waste of time, you know. Really, like, I'm talking about good people. There's just good people in comics on all sides. I've always thought that. I've always thought that I've been in a great industry. I was really proud to be in such a great industry where so many wonderful people were. Every time I went to a convention, I was always just so happy to be there. And every time I came back, I was so glad that I went. So glad that I went to that show. So glad that I got to see all those people, get to catch up with all those wonderful people. And when this shit got all divided and political, like, all my friends divided up. And I'm not looking to, like, you know, throw the turkey to the floor at Thanksgiving dinner. We're all one, man. You know, this world is a world. I'm a part of a community. I'm a professional in a community. And I fucking speak out and speak my mind more than anybody. But I do it in a certain way that doesn't involve throwing anybody under the bus or taking sides and, you know, allowing myself to be a dick to anyone because, well, except for the Bob Igers of the world, the people that are dividing us, then just, you know, nobody. I don't allow myself to be a dick to anybody. I'm just doing the best I can from the middle, trying to bring us together and trying to point us to those stupid patterns that we're in of this back and forth and you got to take sides and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just stupid, guys. It's just the stupidest shit I've ever heard of. And it just thinking like this needs to go away. This is we can never have an independent candidate. We'll never have a female candidate. Bernie's too old to be president. We've never had a Jewish candidate. Like, just stop saying never. Like, when you say never, you're casting a very powerful spell. And as long as people are just thinking like that, it's true to some degree. But when we finally break open our minds and change the way we're thinking, that is when we'll finally get the results I think we're looking for. Anyway, I'm Jesse Blaze Snider. I am your enthusiastic participator in life and geek culture with you. Care Bear Stare, I love you so much. I'm all done talking about Mr. Iger. I think, like, you know, like, put a fucking fork in him. He's done. He's dropped the ball on so many fucking levels. And I mean, really, the Fox thing has just like showed you where he was at that point and like what was done with that stuff. Just like too many fucking balls to juggle. Doesn't have the right people in charge. It's clear as day. Get him the fuck out of there. And please save Disney. Save Disney. Save Disney. Follow me on Twitter, Coolest Geek JBS. You can email me, jesseblaze@jessesnider.com. I sincerely look forward to hearing from you. Anyway, thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join me again next Wednesday and this coming Saturday for another fucking ass-kicking and awesome episode of the Coolest Geek Alive, motherfuckers. You've been listening to Coolest Geek Alive with me, your host, Jesse Blaze Snider. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe for more excellent geek culture content. Thanks for listening.
It's my favorite part! Isn't it heavy? I played that! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Coolest alive! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Stay with your tribe! It's gonna be fucking awesome! Revenge of the Geeks! It's gonna be fucking fucking awesome. Week after weeks, it's gonna be fucking awesome. Laughing with you, it's gonna be fucking awesome. And crying sometimes too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Spelling it out, it's gonna be fucking awesome. Making you shout. I'm a genius. I've got lyrics coming out me bum for days. You like that? It's a kazoo solo. I played that too. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Talking some shit. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Living the shit. My voice is fucking awesome. Food in our mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Get in the mouth. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Tell all your friends. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Call right on text. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Raising the bar. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Straight to the stars. It's gonna be fucking awesome. It's starting soon. Straight to the top of the awesome. Passing the moon. It's gonna be fucking awesome. On with the show. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Ready, set, go. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Fucking awesome. It's gonna be fucking awesome. Just wait. You'll see. You'll all see.
The podcast playground. Hooray!